So, practice makes perfect. This is what we've all heard hundreds of times, and this is what we've all said 100 of times to our friends and our families. But what happens if perfection becomes the enemy of progression? So, I'm going to start my talk by playing two pieces. And the first one is Suite Compostelana by Federico Monpo. And it is a piece that is currently in my concert repertoire. So I've been playing it since September of 2022. I've performed it, I've lived with it, and I've practiced it. And my daily life and experiences have shaped how I want to play it. So. Okay, so I've made these artistic choices through the melody, the articulation that I want you guys to hear and pick up on. That is like something that I've specifically chosen, something that's personal to me. So, the second piece is Grand Valse by Francisco Tárrega, and it's a famous piece, and I want you to shout out if you recognize the tune. But to keep this a fair test, I've never played this before. I've seen the music, and I know the tune, and there are a few other things that I can control, such as the 3 hashtags you see at the beginning of the piece. They're actually what we call sharps. So there's 3 of them. I know that's A major, the key signature, and 3/4. That means there's 3 beats in the bar, so I know that it's kind of like a waltz, and the emphasis is going to be on the first beat. But apart from that, I don't know how it's going to go. And this is something that I can't control, and that I kind of have to accept probably isn't going to go the way that I want it to go. But is that a bad thing? So, let's see how it goes. Can I just say this is actually a fair test? I really didn't want to practice it because I wanted it to be completely authentic. Okay. So, what was that piece? What's the name of it? Yeah, amazing. Yeah, so if you didn't know, Nokia stole this from Francisco Tárrega all the way back in 1902, can you believe? Those phones are like bricks. So, a little bit about me. So, my name is Zoe Barnett, and I study at the Royal College of Music, and I'm a classical guitarist. And if you walk past the RCM today, which is just around the corner, you would have heard the amazing music coming out the front of the building. And that is because us musicians, we live our lives in these practice rooms, striving for perfection, striving to please our teachers, to have them say that we're doing well and that we're going to get better and better. And so I grew up, like a lot of people at RCM, in a very musical household. My mum is a classical guitarist, and she taught my sister and I how to play the guitar at a very young age. And it was always a constant skill in my life, something that I was always good at, something that just made me who I was. And it kind of ended up frustrating me when I would make mistakes, because this was my thing, this was what I was meant to be good at, and if I wasn't succeeding or didn't think that I was, then it would affect how I felt about myself. So I started my undergraduate degree at the RCM in 2017, and even in my first year, people were talking about their final recital. This final recital, it makes up the majority of our undergraduate degree. And I remember thinking that this was like my version of the Olympics. 4 years of practice, performing, creating with others, like socializing, you name it, coming down to less than an hour in the middle of June. So, 4 years of training, my version of the Olympics. Musicians are athletes too. And this is something that isn't really spoken about in the music world, and probably a lot of you guys don't really realize how much muscular strength, muscular endurance, agility, flexibility, neuromuscular control comes into playing an instrument. Just like professional athletes, we have this one tool that if it fails, then we fail to do our job, to make money, to do what we love with such passion. It just completely goes, and that is our bodies. So the University of Nevada conducted a research project, and they found that 76% of musicians have or will suffer with a musculoskeletal injury. And in my personal opinion, I think it could be even higher. And this is what happened to me. I've taken these photos from my Instagram stories where I had absolutely no idea what was going on. So fast forward to March of 2021, and it's my final recital year, it's my graduating year, and we've all just come out of lockdown. And I want you to remember that feeling like you were getting your life back on track, like life was finally coming back to a new sort of normal. And that's how I felt coming back to the RCM. I was so excited to get back in the building, ready to do my final recital. But in the first few weeks in March, I noticed a tingling and a pain coming down into my forearms. And it quickly became worse and worse. And it turned into tingling and numbness moving around my body and a searing pain coming down both forearms. And I was very confused as to what this pain was. I didn't know where it was coming from. So I naturally did the first thing that you do when something goes wrong in your life. I Googled my symptoms. And as you can see, this is what you get when you Google what I Googled. Okay, so what have we got? We've got carpal tunnel syndrome. Most patients gets worse over time. Great. Repetitive strain injury or trauma from an injury. And we've also got paresthesia, which is kind of like your brain stopping the feeling going to your body. So all of these thoughts were flying around my head. And just like my body I was losing control of my body, I was also losing control of my mind. I was jumping to these conclusions that I had all of these overuse injuries. And so I saw some medical professionals. I saw 3 different physios from March to June. And they all told me the same thing, that it was an overuse injury, that I had practiced too much, that guitar was getting in the way of my body healing, and that I had to stop. And that's what happened. My practice lessened and lessened because I was getting worse and worse. And so at the time, I was having regular Alexander technique lessons with a lady named Judith Kleiman, who teaches at the RCM. And it is basically a practice to help you understand how to make your life easier through listening to your body and unlearning your habits in response to a stimulus. And it can help you relieve your body of excess stress and tension. It's not just a physical practice, it's also a mind practice. So he coined the term end gaining, when you jump to conclusions and you think everything's going to be bad forever, but you don't focus on the process that is right in front of you. And so my question today is, where are you holding your tension? Think about how you're sitting. Think about if it's in your arms. Maybe it's in your neck. Maybe you're craning your neck. I want you to think of an event, past or future, that brought you some nerves or excitement, could be an exam or a wedding or like a job interview, anything. Really think about it. Think about the people involved, the time, where it was, how you felt. How's your body feeling? Did you just clench your stomach? Did you just bring your neck back and down? And now I want you to release the tension in your body. Release your shoulders and think about them widening to the sides of the room and have your head floating up to the ceiling. So this is basically you telling your body that it's all going to be okay to a stimulus. So the body's natural response is fight or flight, but you have an active mindset change that you can say to your body that everything is going to be okay. So let's go back to the Nokia ringtone. Okay. So, some things have changed now. I've played it once about 5 minutes ago. But I'm going to ask myself, how can I approach this in an easier way? How can I give up hoping that it's going to be perfect? And how can I react to a stimulus? The stimulus for me right now is playing in front of everyone a piece that I don't know. So when I get to the Nokia ringtone bit, I'm going to actively put my feet on the floor, widen my shoulders, release my stomach, and everything is going to be okay. I'm going to tell myself that everything's going to be okay. 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 So it was a little bit more fluent. So here I'm getting used to it. I'm practicing it over and over again. But I'm also doing it in a healthier way for my mindset. And this is something that you can all take into your personal lives. How can I make this easier for my body? How can I do this while reducing stress? So, what happened to me? What was my injury? So I was still in pain at this point. But I was learning my own tension patterns and how my body responded to a stimulus outside of the guitar. It was giving me an overall perspective, but I was still in pain. So I went to visit an osteopath, and I walked in, and I said, I have a repetitive strain injury. How can you help me? And she stood me up in front of the mirror, and she looked at me in the eye, and she said, no, you don't. You have something else, something you didn't expect. 6 months, I thought I had repetitive strain injury. 6 months, I thought I had repetitive carpal tunnel. 6 months, I thought I had a brain disorder, a paresthesia, my body telling me that I was going to be in pain forever, like not regarding different parts of my body in terms of feeling. She told me that my pelvis was twisted to the right and my shoulders were twisted to the left. And at this point, I was playing guitar sat down. My body had habitually conformed to the way that I played guitar. I'm also hypermobile, so this played a part in this. But my body had got stuck in this position, like this, with my body coming over. So I had to actively change this because I had this stimulus, the guitar. I was in pain. I had to have an active mindset to tell myself that it was going to be okay and that I am going to sort this out. So this is what happened to me. I had a rotation in my spine and my winged scapulars were pressing on my nerves, which in turn was giving me this nerve damage. So what am I going to do now? So at this time I was still playing guitar, sat down, but now we're going to go back for the third and final time, and I'm going to take my shoes off so as to give me a stronger stance on the floor. And this is going to keep my spine in a more neutral position. So, for the last time. that is how I like to play now, and I am currently the only guitarist, classical guitarist, in the UK and Europe that I know of that plays standing up this way. And it's completely transformed my life and brought me something else that nobody does, and is helping me daily in my career, and it's also a skill that I'm developing daily. So, my question to you is, what is your stimulus, and how are you actively going to change your mindset to make your life easier? Thank you.